evening all, how's it going? If anyone hasn't heard, I'm afraid I'm going to have to pick on Meghan Markle again. Well, maybe not so much Meghan Markle, more like just picking on the legions of fuckwits that still don't grasp the obvious fact that Meghan Markle was extremely popular for about the first year, and everyone was licking a minge when she was getting married, and everyone was happy to spend 35 million quid on a fucking wedding and buy her a 500 grand wedding dress and basically frig her off the whole time she was here, up until she started being a necky bastard and taking the piss and going on private jets while whinging about people who use private jets and acting like a fucking woke lefty actress with no idea about the monarchy, the British people in general, our culture, our history, disrespecting the Queen, and generally being a total fucking twat. And then worst of all, when she did get called out on it, blaming everyone who formerly loved her and calling them all racist, anti-American, misogynists. So Lawrence Fox is an actor. And unlike most actors, he seems to be quite logical. They should call him Logical Fox, because he's all over Twitter getting praised by everyone who's not a far-left ideologue. And they've all gone mental. And according to this tweet here, there's Lawrence there. Equity's Minority Ethnic Members Committee has called on fellow actors to unequivocally denounce Lawrence Fox for daring to disagree with some idiots. Look, there's a few people started on saying, whether you agree or disagree with him, any sane person would view Equity's statement as hugely sinister and liable to bring their profession into disrepute. You would think liberal arts fuckers would allow people to disagree on things. Apparently not. Apparently if you're an actor, you have to be a fucking hive mind and agree with a bunch of fucking lunatics on the far left. But yeah. So Lawrence Fox, he was on BBC Question Time. They started discussing Harry and Meghan, and he was the only, well, there was a decent Tory woman on there as well, but he was the only genuinely based, sensible voice of the people on there. And this is what it came to, because he seems like a posh actor, but it basically makes more sense than anybody else around the fucking table. Let's have a watch.
The Sussexes, Harry and Meghan, should they profit from their royal status? Is that what you think they're doing, or that they may end up doing?
I think what they may well end up doing, most likely, let's be honest. We've already seen them trademark the Sussex name, and I think it's highly unlikely that they won't continue to...
Yeah, the cheeky bastards had trademarked the Sussex name the day before they told the Queen. So they plotted the whole thing, made like a Sussex Royal website, and they're blatantly going to start hawking merch. Like, it's unbelievable how necky they were, and this was all set in motion before they even told the fucking Queen Bee. So, yeah, that's why people are pissed off, or one of many, many reasons why people are pissed off.
Carry on this trend, yeah.
Lawrence, what's your view on it all?
Sussex Royal. I feel sorry for them, in a way, but because it's difficult when you've got a new baby and all of that, and it's hard. But I just have this feeling that surely Harry must have had a chat to Meghan at some point and said, by the way, darling, this is going to be misery, and you don't have to marry me if you don't want to. And then...
Well, maybe they did.
Yeah, maybe.
That's another thing, isn't it? Clearly, he's going to have told her the crack before they got married. Like, she's gone into it with her eyes wide open. There's no way he's stuck his cock in her 100 times and he hasn't once mentioned, you know, we do have to do some fucking work, love. Like, she knew. She's just a shameless social climber. This is why Prince Philip said, listen, son, you shag actresses, but you don't fucking marry them. That apparently he told him, you can date actresses, but you don't marry them. Because he knows, because they're all shameless social climbers. You don't even want to be an actor if you're normal. Normal people don't want to be actors. People obsessed with themselves and narcissism and fame and fortune, they'd be actors. That's why that's why everyone knew what she was like. She can't plead ignorance. Because when you've had a bloke's helmet in your mouth 400 or 500 times, you do discuss things in between gobbles. So she knew the crack. He explained it to her.
Maybe they did, but then, you know, and then you want to hop out. You know, can we have the cottage back and your HRHs?
Yes.
So you don't they're doing the wrong thing? Do you think it's disrespectful?
I don't. I think it's really unfair because look, we've got the Queen, who is an extremely different ball game, isn't she? You know, she's duty ahead of everything else. And I think, you know, when you're younger, you do want to make a life for your family. So I do empathise with them, but I do think there's a little bit of having cake and eating.
Yes, you, the one there, stuck your hand right up.
The problem we've got with this is that Meghan has agreed to be Harry's wife, and then the press have torn her to pieces. And
just like they do with all of them, they fucking hounded Camilla Parker Bowles. They hounded Fergie. They fucking tortured them. They tortured Kate whenever she stepped out of line, but she's since learnt to crack and stopped fucking opening her mouth when she shouldn't. Like, you can't say that she's had it harder than anybody else. When all of the coverage when they were getting married and throughout the wedding was fawning, adoration. The public only turned against her when she started being a bitch. Probably all started about Wimbledon when she was fucking off the nice old pensioners who went over to have a chat. That's when they started turning against her. So don't come out with this bullshit. It's demonstrable fact. We can all go on YouTube and look at the wedding fucking footage, and everyone was fawning all over and nobody was talking shit about her. It only started when she started being a massive pain up the arse.
Let's be really clear about what this is. Let's call it by its name. It's racism. She's a black woman.
She's not a black woman. She looks fucking Italian. Like, my bell end is darker than her.
And she has been
torn
to pieces.
You can't.
She has been torn to pieces.
It's not racism.
It absolutely is.
Not. We're the most tolerant, lovely country in Europe. Let's celebrate our living.
All the polls show it. Yeah, you don't see people making monkey noises at the fucking Premier League games, do you? It doesn't happen week in, week out at Arsenal or St James's Park, but it does in Italy and it does in Spain and it does all over the continent, but it doesn't happen here because Britain's not full of fucking arseholes. And they all know it. She doesn't even believe it. Do you think she gets spat at and racially abused in the streets in England?
It's so easy to throw the charge of racism at everybody, and it's really starting to get boring.
What worries me about your comment is you are a white privileged male who has no experience in this.
I mean, can I
I
just...
can't help what I am. I was born like this. It's an immutable characteristic. So to call me a white privileged male is to be racist. You're being racist.
You cannot dismiss.
Okay.
They all say this, right? They all say you can't have an opinion because you're a white privileged male. The groans from the audience were palpable, and the reason the groans were palpable is because everybody knows it's fucking illogical. It's completely illogical. The quote they all love to spout is they love to say, oh, they have to walk a mile in their shoes. If anyone hasn't, I mean, we did it in my shitty comprehensive, so I'm sure nearly everybody listening has read To Kill a Mockingbird. But the quote comes from To Kill a Mockingbird. That's the famous one I remember. And it's Atticus Finch. He says to Scout, if you can learn a simple trick, you'll get along a lot better with all kinds of folks. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside of his skin and walk around in it. No part of that quote says, because you aren't a thing, therefore you can't have an opinion and you can't say anything logical about the thing. All it's fucking saying is have some empathy. That's it. So these people fully misunderstand the quote, like they haven't read basic literature in fucking high school, which wouldn't surprise me because most of them are fucking idiots. But no part of that says, well, Scout, he didn't say, well, Scout, if you're not a big bald black fella, you can't understand a big bald black fella. That's not what they're saying. They're saying have some empathy. Try and understand people. And that's logical. It's like when you see a big fat chav with 5 kids and you're in a fucking Wetherspoons having a quiet pint and you look over and you see a fat chav with 9 kids running fucking riot and running round the boozer, flinging themselves at strangers' feet and shrieking. And then, sure enough, 4 hours later, they're drunk as fuck asleep in the corner and the kids are fucking crawling around the floor and people are going, who the fuck's are these kids? Maybe that's just a Middlesbrough thing. But I've seen it. Now, you wouldn't get someone if I was to say, holy shit, that woman is a shit parent. You wouldn't say someone say, well, have you got kids? And if you say, no, they don't say, well, unless you've got 9 kids and you fall asleep in a Wetherspoons, you don't know what it's like. You don't need to have kids to know how to treat kids. I mean, first of all, we all fucking were one at some point, right? We all did that. I was a fucking kid. I know that a good way, as a result, I know that a good way of dealing with a crying child who won't eat his dinner is not to grab his fucking head, hold his head under the bath, and just, check your watch for 30 seconds, pull him up and say, eat your fucking tea, son, or you're getting waterboarded all night. I know that would be shit parenting. I don't have to be a parent to know that. I just have to have basic human empathy. That's all that quote was about. These fucking idiots seem to think that basically what that famous quote is about is, right, for you to understand a black man, you have to be a black man. If you're not one, you can't have an opinion. If you understand a black woman, you have to be a black woman. And if you aren't one, you don't understand empathy, and you don't understand logic, and you don't understand common sense. Sorry, you can't have an opinion. What fucking planet are these people on? But they only do it, the far left ideologues, the only people who do it with identity politics, they're the only ones who are allowed, because it doesn't work with anybody else. All you need to understand someone is normal human emotions, the ability to empathise, a fully functional fucking brain. It's like, fucking hell, what? These people are mental. Like, nobody could vote on or have an opinion on anything. Oh, this affects the balding. If you're not balding, you can't have a fucking opinion.
I'm not taking a view either way. I'll just add in that Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, also took the view that it wasn't racism. I'm not making a judgment on that.
Because Priti Patel is fucking switched on.
Either way. The woman in the red top there, as this question started, you were nodding your head along vigorously. What have you got to say?
Oh, well, I think when Meghan first married Harry, I thought it was a breath of fresh air. I thought it was good. I thought it was nice to have somebody like her who was not a royal. She came from America. She came from an ordinary background. I thought that was all great. But I think that she's actually joined a club and now she just doesn't like the rules. And she wants to opt out. And as Lawrence said, I think surely she must have she's an intelligent woman. Surely she must have realised some of what was going to happen.
But it might be Harry
who's
driving
this. Harry, but it seems to...
Yes, because Harry's got new minge syndrome. Common sense fled him the moment she fucking sucked him dry with those bee-stung Botox lips.
Be that it's Meghan that it's all about. I don't know.
Oh, no, we don't. We can only speculate, can't we?
Yeah.
Shami, what's your take on this?
I think that... Now, I know that to be royalty...
We've just discussed that, Shami. You don't. You fucking idiot. You don't. Read a long book. You can see she got promoted under fucking Blair. Just rank cronyism. Because she's got the IQ of a fucking pork pie, that cunt. Fuck me.
It's not to be the worst off person in the country or on the planet, but I still try to walk around in someone else's shoes. And I do think that some of the things that are being said are pretty harsh. And I would never say that because you're a white man, you don't have a perspective. But
but now I'm going to say it.
I would ask you to consider the perspective of anybody who's had a different experience. And I know that Britain is a...
So he's not doing that then? He's not being logical and reasonable just because he's a white man?
Wonderful country, and I'm second to no one in my love of my country, but it is, loving your country doesn't mean that you say there is no racism in the country and there are no issues.
But he said that, did they? Nobody thinks there's no racism in the country. They just don't think that's the primary or even the secondary reason as to why the 60 million people that did adore Meghan 12 months ago suddenly think she's a cunt now.
Forgive me, and I think in this city, perhaps more than anywhere else in this country, you know about abuses by parts of the press. And and if we want to be specific and look at evidence, I looked at a piece, I think it was in BuzzFeed today, where there was a very...
If it was in BuzzFeed, it's not worth a wank. You can get more interesting information from the back of a shampoo bottle than you get in an entire month of BuzzFeed fucking story. It's not even news.
Very forensic comparison between the treatment of the two princes'
Well, shall I quote? So I got it.
Yeah.
So
they ignored all the ones that they didn't like and they put in all the ones that they did. Forensic by BuzzFeed. That grand source that everybody knows is totally reliable.
This is the Daily Express. So the Daily Express is talking about Kate choosing flowers. And in August, they said, in 2011, this is obviously for the wedding, like the bride herself...
It's tricky, isn't it? Because we can't have it sort of both ways. If they say some empathy for that, and I think we should just take it.
Lawrence, did you want to come back in before I go?
Yeah, I think that it's one of the dangerous things about throwing racism around in this country, which we're doing a lot at the moment, is people become so conscious of it that things like the Manchester grooming scandal get ignored. So that, you know, we need to be careful that we need to call out racism when it's seen, when it's obvious and when it's there, and we should stand together to condemn it. But for...
Perfectly reasonable, and she's looking at him like he's just fucking shit himself at the table. Look at her face. I think he just stuffed his hand down her drawers. The fucking look on her face.
A fear of sounding racist, there's been horrific things have happened in Manchester and in towns all over the north of England, and we should be careful and use racism when it's there and it's obvious, and not call someone racist just because they don't agree with you.
Alan, so coming back to the original question.
Yep, lots of applause from the logical audience.
I mean, you know, when this story broke, what was it, Wednesday week ago, I don't think any of us could have foreseen how it was going to go. We've now obviously got this you've got the Mail and Mail on Sunday possibly calling Meghan Markle's father, having kind of Markle on Markle situation in the court, in the libel case. I mean, what's your view on what's happening?
I think it makes the UK looks like it's lost its marbles, forgive me. I mean, I really struggle, given all the issues that are kicking about in the world, to find any headspace for this whatsoever. I think the royal family has been... The press alternates with the royals between utter sycophancy and everything's fabulous, or sheer hatred. And we've seen it over the years with each member of the royal family. Now, if they
I mean,
want to
there
go
is an issue of public spending. I mean, it's not entirely frivolous and out with...
Suppose I'll agree with the SNP guy for a change. I agree with him. It's not the biggest issue. But at the end of the day, they are spending public money. And even more importantly than that, they're accusing people that were almost unequivocally supportive of the fuckers of being bigoted just because Meghan started being an annoying, woke social justice warrior. So then everybody turned against them. People didn't hate her when she wasn't being a cheeky bastard. So they get a bit annoyed when all of a sudden, instead of just holding their hands up and going, whoa, hang on, it's my fault, I shouldn't have started gobbing off while I was on a fucking private island for 6 weeks, making out like plumbers are lazy bastards while I was getting flew about on a fucking private jet by Elton John. Maybe I should think before I open my mouth. If she'd have said that, everyone would go back to fawning all over her. But instead she went, oh yeah, you know, all you people that were praising me and calling me fucking marvellous and beautiful and, you know, charming, well, you're all a bunch of cunts, really. You're all racists and sick and misogynists and anti-Americans, and you just despise me for no logical reason. Boo fucking who. I've got it so hard. That's why everyone hates her.
The idea that there is no racism in Britain is quite a serious issue, and it goes beyond...
Yeah, no one
said there's no racism.
So no doubt there has been a great deal of racism directed against Meghan Markle from members of the public and some sections of the press. Of course there has. But I think in general...
I doubt it. There's been a small amount from weirdos on Twitter. That doesn't mean the press is endemically racist against a bird who looks fucking Italian.
In general, what is really aggravating people isn't the colour of her skin, but it's the arrant hypocrisy that they have shown on many occasions. Even the way in which they want to exit the royal family is, you know, they're not proposing to be like, you know, let's say the Dutch royal family where you cycle to work and you maintain a regular job. What they're proposing is a kind of strange hybrid where you'll retain many of the perks and privileges of being in the royal family, but you expect none of the duties. And to go back to the original question about are we going to see them cashing in on their brand? Yes, I think we will. I think we're going to get a kind of woke celebrity, sort of Gwyneth Paltrow meets Greta Thunberg with a bit of Kardashian thrown in for good measure.
That was a great analogy. That's exactly what they're going to fucking turn into.
Type thing.
God, now you've painted an extraordinary vision for us all, Madeline.
And they say they want to avoid press coverage, but I think what they're hoping to achieve with this brand is to exchange UK coverage for US coverage. I think the public completely understands and empathises with their need to live a more private life, and there are routes out of the royal family that would enable them to do that, but what they're proposing is not a retreat from public life at all, and I think it's the hypocrisy of that is really annoying a lot of people.
Perfectly logical. Don't disagree with any of that. You can tell she works for the Telegraph. If she worked for fucking The Guardian, she'd have just brought up some obscure comment about fucking scissoring or something.
The one here in the front, you've had your hand up for ages. Yes.
Fergie got 10 times worse press than Meghan's ever had.
Fergie?
And as soon as the press say booed Meghan, I feel she pulls the racist card. Now, I'm, as she says, a woman of colour, and I feel she pulls the racist card every time. When there's something she doesn't like, she's straight off with it's racist.
Based woman of colour there. She's the same. I mean, is she a woman of colour? These people, her and Meghan, they're not. No one cares. No one's going to like, ooh, who the fuck is a racial purist in the UK? Who? Nobody cares. Oh, you're very, very slightly more tan than I am, therefore I'm better than you. Does anyone in the real world meet anyone like that in England? It's not 1940s. It's not like antebellum USA. Fucking hell.
No.
Well, what about the original question? Should the Sussexes profit from their royal status?
I guess to come back to the overall point, being a member of the royal family, there is clearly great sort of some material benefits, but it must be tough living your entire life in the public eye. Actually,
not really. Not that fucking tough, is it? So he's our new hero, Lawrence. Hey, look at that one. You know, it would be hilarious if someone walked up with Lawrence Fox and loaded a couple shotgun shells into his face and ended his racist, miserable existence. To watch that interview and conclude that he's a racist, just because he said we shouldn't just jump to racism every time someone has an argument, what therefore he despises anyone with a tan, is the definition of fucking lunacy. Follow him on Twitter. He's my new fucking hero. A based, posh actor. I never thought I'd see the fucking day. Cheers.